McQuestion. For over 25 years, talking about things that matter with people who care. Production of McQuestion is made possible in part by individual viewers, supporters of the Foundation for Responsible Television, CF Accountants and Consultants, adding value to clients throughout the region, the University of Texas at Dallas, creating the future.
Well, what or who would you think of when I say think tanks? And if I ask you if you had a philosophy that you subscribe to, what would you answer? Finally, if I mention the term rational self-interest, what philosopher would come to mind? Well, these are just three of the questions that my guest, John Allison, and I will talk about on this program. So put your thinking cap on and join us. John, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dennis.
And for that person who doesn't know John Allison, you are now, if I get your title right, the chairman of the Executive Advisory Council of Cato's Center for Monetary and Financial Alternatives. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just immediate past president of the Cato Institute. You took over 2 or 3 years ago. And you're formerly, one of my things about you is you're also a recovering banker like I am.
I am.
You're formerly the CEO of bb&t, which is the nation's 10th largest bank, I suppose. And I might say I'm not one of those banks that we usually think about getting all those big fines and stuff. So I appreciate that about you. So let me just start with this. The question that I ask the audience is about think tanks. You and I have been around this world in different ways. We never thought we would run one, I don't think. But tell that audience what think tanks are, and then sort of tell us a bit about Cato.
The purpose of think tanks is to develop public policy positions from an objective long-term perspective. Most think tanks have some underlying philosophy that does impact that public policy position. In the specific case of Cato, our mission is to create a free and prosperous society based on the principles of individual liberty, free markets, limited government, and peace. We really do believe in limited government in the sense that we think the government should stay out of your pocketbook, but we also think it should stay out of your bedroom. We think government has a very important purpose, but it's very limited, to protect individual rights, to keep me from taking what you've earned and keep you from taking what I've earned. So government is about protecting individual rights.
How do you get to this idea of limited government?
Well, we believe we're the modern day advocates of the principles that made America great: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you look at the Founding Fathers, they talked about a limited and delimited powers for government. Their great concern is that government would intrude too much in the lives of people, that government would continue to expand, and that's exactly what's happened, usually because somebody's looking for some benefit. It might be an individual, it might be a business, it might be a union, and we think that when government gets involved, it has a gun. And that's different. Walmart can try to convince you to come and buy products, but they can't make you. Governments can make you. They can take your property, they can put you in jail, and they can kill you. And when somebody has a gun, that makes them very dangerous. And we also believe, and this thing, use your own experiences, when people do things voluntarily, you have better outcomes. The community solve problems voluntarily. Government is never voluntary, right? It might be in one circumstance, but there's somebody else they're taking their property from to achieve some end. And we think when force is used, you generally get bad outcomes. You need force to defend the country. We need a national defense. We need police. We need courts to settle disputes. But outside of that, we think communities and individuals working together have better solutions.
I am quite sure you've never heard this argument. Well, that sounds good, John. That sounds good. But look, there are people who are unfortunate and they've got circumstances beyond their control. I mean, we've done a lot of programs over the years. We did one called Left, Right, and in the Middle. We had Leonard Peikoff, who was sort of Mr. Ayn Rand person on one side, talking about this issue. And so you're just saying you'd leave these people lying in the street to die. Is that where you're coming from?
No, I think there's a very important role for charity. And the United States has a very generous population. If you looked at the charity per capita, there would be no poor people in the United States. It's about what happens between generous people and whether it gets to the people that need the money. And we think government's a big obstacle in that regard. If you look at the social welfare system, what it has done is destroyed minority families, for example. Out-of-wedlock birth rates have soared. When you teach people to be dependent, they lose part of their soul. They lose the sense of personal responsibility that is so important to human flourishing. Globally, the single biggest factor correlated with economic well-being is economic freedom. Economic freedom leads to well-being, and it raises everybody. Now, anybody that's really traveled around the world knows there aren't really many poor people in the United States. There are poor people in Bangladesh. When we talk about poverty, that means, we're really not talking about poverty compared to what happens in the rest of the world. That doesn't mean that we don't have